Hi, welcome to the Friday Vibe at Integrity Magazine. We have the very, very wonderful, sitting there looking wonderful, Jason O'Brien, who is an independent filmmaker based in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes.
I can't say it. I'm not even going to try it, right? He's a film director, producer, cinematographer, writer, and an editor. Welcome, Jason O'Brien.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on. We were trying to figure out how to show this live, but I don't know how to do it. Oh, hang on. I'm going to try. I'm
trying to tell you not to do it. You're going to do it anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know how to do it.
In are like, oh, this is exciting. I'm sure.
I'm not the most tech. So thank you so much for joining us. You are actually in America at the moment, and then you're going to go to work. So you've come on. It's 1:30 in the afternoon.
It is.
And is it? Please tell me it's still hot in Alabama.
It is very hot, entirely too hot. I am ready for summer to be done.
Oh, we're just saying goodbye to summer.
No, I hate summer. I can't. And maybe because it's here and it's so hot and warm, but it's like, it just gets to me more and more every year. Probably because I'm getting older.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything. My lips are sealed. So you founded your production company, Fastlane Productions, in 2014, which was also the year that you had great success with your first documentary, I think, called Cuddle.
Yes.
Yeah, because you obviously had lots of short films, and you do create quite. How many short films? I think 3, 4.
No, it's been more than that. God, I've done at least 12 or so.
Oh gosh.
I think,
so I only know 3, 4.
Yeah, I'm keeping some of them.
That's amazing.
But
so what was the inspiration? Can you tell the viewers what Cuddle was about and why you think it got so much success in the US?
Yeah, I think, well, it came to me because I had a friend that talked to me about these cuddle parties, which I'd never heard of. And I thought, this sounds interesting. I really got to find out some more about this. And then when I finally went to one and kind of saw what they were and kind of saw how beneficial they were to people, then my filmmaker mind started to think, you know, I had all kinds of ideas and misperceptions about it. So if I could make a film about it, then maybe I could present that to people where they could see it for themselves. And so I immediately did some research and I saw that no one had ever made a film about this. And that is exceedingly rare, you know, to find a documentary subject that has not been made. And then it felt like a calling at that point. And then I had to try to keep it as secret as possible while I traveled the country to kind of look at these cuddle businesses and these cuddle parties. And I think it caught on because it was such a interesting subject. Like it's controversial by its very nature, even though they're trying to break free of that controversy and be a legitimate therapy, just like massage. But I think there's such interest in it that I think it just people just gravitated towards it. They're like, even if they didn't think that it was something they could do personally, they were intrigued by it. They wanted to see it. They wanted to see what it was like. So I think that's why it succeeded like it did.
And what's the concept behind a cuddle party?
Well, basically, it's really like a workshop. It's a workshop that teaches about consent and about boundaries and about asking for what you want, and to get your touch needs met in a safe setting where you don't have to cuddle with anybody that you don't want to. But it's really about teaching, because a lot of people think it's like a hippie thing, which, you know, like a bunch of people just get together and you're just having this wild cuddle party thing. But it's really just this wonderful kind of space where you can, if you're not in a relationship or you just don't have touch in your life a lot, that you can feel that connection with other people, and in a safe place where you know that your no's are going to be respected, and that you can learn all these valuable skills that you can actually take out into other parts of your life, like in relationships. And because I know one of the things I learned so valuable was about being able to say no without having to constantly explain myself, because I was always concerned about people's feelings. You know, like if someone would invite me out for an evening, but I really had a plan to just hang out by myself, you know, I'm being true to myself by saying no. And so I love that it taught those kind of skills to people. And I think that's what surprised people a lot, because they just had this perception that it was just like this cuddle orgy kind of thing or something. So I was glad that I could present that to people and kind of show them that this is very different than what you think it is.
And what was the result of the Cuddle documentary being aired nationwide? On, you know, what kind of effect did it have on people? Did more people want to go to cuddle parties?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I didn't, you know, like the feedback that I got when it first really came out was mostly that it changed people's perception, which was exactly what I wanted to do. You know, like they said, even if they would say, you know, there's no way that I could cuddle with strangers, you know, but I see that it's a valuable kind of thing. And that was great to see. I'm trying to remember if I heard from anybody that well, the result I heard from the most was it so made them want to cuddle with someone right then and there. So it was like, so that was a really good thing.
And you followed it up as well with Cuddle Me.
Yeah, that one I'm actually
post-production, I think, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, I've got a pretty good cut of it done now. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. I even thought of a couple changes today. I'm getting feedback on it now, but it's a much more personal journey through this cuddle movement, because I felt there was more to say in the cuddle movement, but then it was also like where the first film is really presenting all the people that kind of do this and kind of show to people, this is what a cuddle party is. This is what a cuddle session is like. You don't really get to see how it impacts a person that goes through it. You see a little bit, you get a glimpse but so this one, I turned the camera on myself to kind of show just what can happen, the journey of healing that I did through cuddling. And that was a tough film to make, because really I wasn't really thinking of it from a film standpoint. I was thinking of it from healing, and thought about, okay, if there's a film to be made later, then I'll worry about that later, which is unlike any other film that I've done. And I'm really, really proud of this film, and I hope it can succeed where the first Cuddle did, because another friend of mine that just watched it the other day gave me one of the best compliments and said it's one of those rare sequels that's better than the original.
Excellent.
Like, oh, that's great to hear. You know, like it's because I've never done a sequel to anything that I've made before. So, but I felt there was more to say, and I hope it. The biggest thing is I hope it can reach people that are going through despair or grief and just can't seem to find their way out of it, because I was in that place, and I think people that have gone through things like that have a responsibility. You and I have talked about this endlessly. Yeah. We have a responsibility to share those stories with others, to help them through it, because we know exactly what it's like to feel like you can't get through another day. And yeah, I hope that it can reach people in that way.
And it'll be really interesting to see how that's perceived post-COVID, or in the midst of COVID, post-COVID, because we don't know what tomorrow, next month, a few months is going to bring. Which brings me back to another one of your other documentaries that you've got coming up. My Body Is Not Obscene.
Yeah,
I was very honoured to be shown it, to take a look at it, and it really brought it made me think about how I approach my body. Even though I'm slim, curvaceous, etc., I realize I have, just like most women, body issues. Yeah, as you know, because Jason and I have become friends because of Facebook, and I'm always saying, my big fat tummy, my big fat tummy, my big fat tummy. It's like me and my best mate is my big fat tummy, and it's just a baby tummy, but it's how I talk about that part of my body, like it's this horrible thing. And so that's why I particularly loved. I'd be really interested to see what people think of the documentary, because it really, really spoke to me a lot. It kind of tapped into something personal inside of me.
Yeah, and that's from the other people that I've shown it to so far. They all respond that same way, because I think no matter how, like you said, other people can tell us how good we look, or slim we look, or all that. There's still going to be those imperfections that we're all going to see in ourselves. And so one of the things that this documentary, I hope, really captures for people is just that beauty is not one defined thing. And embracing your body and its beauty is such a wonderful thing to see. And it's empowerment is probably the biggest theme of that documentary, of people that are empowering themselves through like, obviously we're talking about nudity in the film, so it's people that are either posing nude or various issues around nudity, that all the different stigmas that attach to them. And we have a lot of that in America, more than even like in European countries, with the stigmas around nudity and that kind of thing. So, so yeah, that one we've still got some additional filming to do. But I'm really, really proud of that. We've been working on that one since 2017. So
Wow.
yeah, that's when we started, and we didn't have a rush on it. We wanted to take our time with it, and I'm glad we did, because we really kind of started to expand beyond some of the early themes to really look at all the various areas where there's different stigmas around the human body. And why is that? Like, that's always been something that I've always could never understand, why there was such a stigma around the naked human body. So it was a very, yeah.
It's really interesting. So obviously, I've spoken to film directors and actors and so on. And, when people think of film directors and production, they tend to think of films, short films, etc. So it's really interesting to talk to somebody who creates documentaries based around us, basically, around how we perceive ourselves and how we measure up to other people, but more importantly, how we measure up to ourselves.
Yes.
So really fascinating. And also your short films are very touching on relationships and how that affects us.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's very much a genre where you're involved in.
Yeah.
But also,
like if you look at all my work, it all kind of revolves around human connection.
Absolutely.
Like I see that seems to be where I'm drawn. It's like, how do we connect to one another? How do we perceive one another? How do we relate to one another? Because it's one of the things I've been trying to figure out all my life. So I definitely have been trying to figure it out through my work. Yeah. And
sharing that with other people as well. So sharing your own personal journey, which I know you've done through Cuddle Me, and also My Body's Not Obscene as well. And on some of your short films that I've seen, you've shared your emotion, your relationships, everything that has impacted you. And I think that's the key to being a great storyteller. And I have to tell the viewers how we connected in the first place. So we have mutual friends, and I think it was November last year, October, November. So it was the time of the BAFTA filming, the time of which films were going to end up on the Oscar list. I think they just announced the Oscar list, etc. And so you were writing all the reviews of the Oscar films, the Oscar-nominated films, because I'd started working in production and very honoured to be going to see some of these special BAFTA screenings with Q&As with Quentin Tarantino, etc. Then I was really interested in your reviews. And then I think I requested being your friend, but I was just so fascinated how somebody could create a story within a story. And I almost felt like compelled to watch these films just to see what I was reading. I mean, that's an amazing storyteller there, to be able to do that. And I know everyone loves your reviews.
Yeah, that was one of the things, like, one of the, like, if I'm not making films, I love to talk about them or talk about the process of them. And obviously films that I love and I'm passionate about, I can go on for days about them and talk about them and get people excited to see them. Because I think film criticism, I grew up with, watching like Siskel and Ebert and some of the great film critics. And I just think it's a great art to share that from people that really have a passion for it, to share that. And so I love to do that. Like, I'd love to write about these movies and get people excited about seeing movies that they may not otherwise want to catch or something like that. And so I do remember that when we first connected, because you were talking about all these movies that you were excited to see. Now the question is, have you? No, that's
well, I have. So I've seen most of them, but I didn't see your top list of ever decade films. I hadn't seen most of those, but the only one I hadn't seen was Parasite. Because lockdown came, and unfortunately, and I hadn't seen it, so I'm kind of waiting for it to come out somehow. So Anastasia Tempest, she said she's always wanted a film about her life. Okay. That sounds interesting, Anastasia. Anastasia, I'm guessing Anastasia. Apologies. Great. Yeah. So what are your next projects then? What have you got in the pipeline?
Well, like obviously getting these 2 documentaries out. So I'll be fine tuning those and getting those edited. That was my goal for 2020, was to those 2 especially, to get those done. And then I'm still doing some music videos from time to time, like as those projects come up. I'm not doing so many short films. I just kind of want to focus more on the feature stuff. And then I'm co-writing a script with this really, really talented writer from the UK. My only thing that I'm worried about is if her writing is going to live up to my greatness. So it's
of course it will.
Of course it will. And yes, I'm talking about Paula. We are actually collaborating together, which I think didn't you predict at one point when
I did.
Yes, you said something about you felt like we were going to collaborate on something. So I don't know how much.
And then we came up with these. We were sharing stories about one particular thing, which I won't spoil. I won't mention.
Okay,
we were sharing stories, and it just made each other laugh. Exasperated. So we shared the tears, we shared the joy, and then we came up with this idea of, hey Adam, we came up with this idea of, look, why don't we just write it all down? Right, let's write it down.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching myself script writing, which I've never done before, and you are a script writer, so we'll see what happens. But
really,
why not?
Really
why not go for it?
Yeah, I haven't done a collaboration quite like this one. I've co-written before, but this is going to be a very interesting collaboration. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun. But you're writing. You have to do more reviews because they're absolutely amazing. Especially, I mean, I know you just watched Tenet. Tenet. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which you said you have to watch a couple more times before you review it because it's
wow, that film. It's a mind rush of things that you're trying to keep track of. Okay, what did I just see? So it does require multiple viewings, but I'm pretty sure I loved it.
Well, you have to write a review on it. So it was absolutely amazing. You know, if the thing is, it's very difficult right now to go out and see films and just to have some semblance of the old routines and normality back. So to have somebody writing and getting us excited about getting out there and getting to see something it's pretty key, I think. And it's a great talent to have. So more of it, please.
Yeah, and I'm really concerned too, just how the film industry is going to, kind of come out of this. Because, even going to the theater, such a different experience with limited capacity and, and I don't know how many people are going to want to even go through that process to get out to watch movies. So it's a concerning time for the film industry for sure, to see how it kind of copes with this and comes out of it. And
I meant to ask you this earlier, but what got you wanting to be part of the film industry in the first place?
Well, I fell in love with movies from a young age. I saw Star Wars when I was 6 years old, and I just remembered the magic of this huge screen. And then as I grew up on certain movies, and I was 11 years old, I'll never forget, I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I saw a documentary on television about the making of it. And I know this seems naive, but as a kid, I thought these were just magical worlds that I was visiting. But then when I saw that there were actual people that could make these things, I was like, oh, God, I want to do that, and from that point on, that's what I knew I wanted to do, is I wanted to be able to create. Because I knew I always had this creative, I thought I'd be a writer to start with. Because I was writing short stories and things at a young age. But then when I really fell in love with film, I was like, this is what I got to do.
And what were your favorite films? I know you mentioned what's his name? Indiana Jones films. I know you mentioned, I loved him. As a child, that inspired me too, must say. I still think of walking, where he throws the dust and you have to, I can't remember the famous line where you just have to step out, be brave and step out. I can't remember which one it was, but he walks across and so what films inspired you more than any of the other films growing up?
That's a good question, because there's been so many. It's more like by filmmakers, like Martin Scorsese for sure was a filmmaker that just, like the whole filmmakers of the 70s, that was an age that I would love to come back to. That was an age when filmmakers could do these original, risky films. Like nowadays, you really only get to see like superhero films in theaters, things that are sure bets. There's not. That's why I get excited about a film like Tenet, because that's an original film. And so I grew up on those films of like the 70s and filmmakers like that just had such great ideas with such independent visions. You know, so The Godfather, you know, Taxi Driver,
Yeah.
you know, Goodfellas, you know, God, there's just so many of these wonderful movies that just continue to inspire me. You know, I would love to be a filmmaker like that.
Is that what you thought when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
well, more teenager, I guess, wouldn't it? From 11 onwards, it would have been.
Well, I wasn't really sure, like when I first fell in love with the idea of making movies, I wasn't sure exactly what type of movies. But then as I grew older, and realized, like when I started to really look at films that had deeper subject matter than just, you know, like, yes, Indiana Jones is great, you know, but I love deeper dramas that get much more into the human psyche, and that's what I always thought the type of filmmaker that I would be. And I think that's kind of why I've gravitated now more towards documentaries, because it really is presenting a deeper psyche in real life. And I think that's where that's where I'm kind of living right now. I'm really loving documentaries. Plus I can
I'll take you over to the film world.
I know.
Our film is going to be so amazing. We'll be at the Oscars in a couple of years. We'll be, you know, winning everything. It'll be fine.
That's right. That's right.
It's true. So what kind of advice would you
take all the credit too, because you like reached out to me first, and
yeah. And so far I've got the log line and the title. So come on.
You're already ahead of me.
Up your game. So if you could give any advice, think back to your younger self, okay? If you could give any advice to anyone, especially now with the industry absolutely being leveled by COVID right now, what advice would you give to anyone wanting to get into the film industry, any part of it?
Any part. Well, the best advice I could give is the best advice I got from actually the producer of the executive producer who owns the Batman series. I actually got to meet him a few years back. And the best advice he ever said is, if this is not something that you feel you absolutely have to do inside of you, then don't do it. If you're doing it for fame, if you're doing it for money, just don't even try, because this will be the most heartbreaking industry ever, because you have to put up with 99% rejection to get that 1% great moment. And it really is true, because if you, there have been times that even with the passion that I have, that it just breaks you down. Like you feel like you're just wasting time you're trying to put more and more out there, and you're still not getting to where you want to be. And I guess that would be the other thing that I'd say too, is don't have a preconceived notion of what it's supposed to look like. You know, like I always felt that I was supposed to be on the Steven Spielberg level, you know, and that was the only place I'd be happy. But I realized that that created so much self-criticism that I wasn't reaching that goal. And really what makes me the most happy is just being able to continue to create. You know, would I love to have a lot more money to do it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm enjoying myself so much, like just editing these documentaries now, and even filming them as I was, and writing together like we're doing, you know, like just being able to create.
Yeah.
Enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. Don't always keep knocking yourself over the head for thinking you're not at a certain place. Everybody's going to take a different step, and it'll always look like everybody has more success than you. But
yeah,
you know, they all had to work there. There's very few stories of people who had overnight success. Everybody had to really work hard. Even Steven Spielberg had to work very, very hard to get where he's at.
Mm-hmm. And so many people went bankrupt in the process, didn't they? And then just had to start again, and then fell down and start again, and fell down and start again. Over and over and over.
And that's another thing. There's very few people that stay at that level, you know, like a Tom Hanks or someone like that. Everybody else, you know, it's still, even big names have trouble making movies that they want to make to get the financing to make. And that was an eye-opening thing when I saw that, because I was like, you know, if I'm having trouble getting financing for movies, But then someone like Martin Scorsese takes 25 years to make a Gangs of New York, for example. Then, we're all struggling to do this. It's a tough industry. So
really, did it actually? Because I didn't know that. So that's a kind of an insider's bit of knowledge, but I didn't know that it took him that long. Is that because of the funding?
Yeah, it was funding, and he's had that on quite a few projects. He always struggles to get his films made because even The Irishman, his last film, he had to go to Netflix because they're the place that is really stepping up now to support independent filmmakers, because the major studios, it's too much of a risk. They want a sure thing. If they're going to spend that amount of money, they want a superhero film or a remake or something that's based on a property like that. So it's changing. The industry is definitely changing. Which I'm happy to see, but I'd love to see a lot more support of original visions and not just the same stuff we keep seeing over and over.
So do you think that's going to happen? And if it does happen, where do you think that support, where do you think the funding, where do you think that's going to come from?
I think it's going to come from like the streaming platforms. And I really think, and especially with COVID, how it's changed things, I think the theater experience, which I love and I don't want it to go away, I think it is going to just become sort of like the big spectacle films. I don't think we're ever going to see a time where you're going to be able to go to the theater, because there's even Tenet. Christopher Nolan is one of only a handful of filmmakers that get that kind of backing, that get to produce films that are that original on a big scale like that. So I think it's going to, streaming is going to change. I think it's changing everyone's mindset about where they're seeing movies now, because even first run movies are now coming to, like the new Disney Mulan is coming out on Disney Plus. The new Bill and Ted film just is coming out on streaming at the same time. So I think it's a really huge change that's going to happen with movies. And my bottom line is like, if getting the movies made is all that matters. Obviously, I would love to see them in a movie theater, but I think things are changing also. And at the end of the day, if I'm thinking as a filmmaker, if I could get money to make my film and it's going to show on Netflix, hey, my film's still being seen, and being made.
Yeah.
So
do you think the moviegoer or the movie watcher, do you think we've kind of been trained to be stuck in front of our own little home cinema, whether it's that size? Do you think we've trained ourselves now over the last 6 months? Because yes, I think everyone has seen just about everything on Netflix, right?
I think
which is quite amazing. I mean, where are all these films that have been out the last 2 years? Why aren't they on Netflix? Why are we watching the same old? We're all like kind of climbing trees at the moment, trying to find something to watch. So if it is going to be streamed and we are going to be watching more from home, there's a lot of control there, isn't there?
Yeah.
From these big players.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, I think it is like this especially is going to change a lot of people, where it's because there are all kinds of people before this that couldn't justify like going out to a movie theater and spending all the money on food and things like that when they can just sit at home and order up something on Netflix, and it's just a lot easier. And so I think the movie theater experience is in danger. It already was before COVID, but I think even more so now. It's going to become something that's just going to be this reserved for really like big films, and the independent artists, they're not going to be able to get their visions made onto a theater screen. Which, being a film theorist, that does make me sad. But
okay, let's make this because we're coming to the end of the interview. Let's think of something amazing and happy,
yes,
right, to end on. So, when we bring our film to the world, we're going to make people laugh, right? We're going to make people laugh. We're going to make them love film. And we're always going to think about the moviegoer, right?
Yes.
And my point is that, what is my point actually? If the most perfect film for, who knows, I never know what my point is, but the most perfect film for a family sitting at home, can't go to theatre because they've, the movie theatre, they've closed down. We call them cinemas here, by the way, but I love the way you call them a movie theatre. It sounds far more delightful and posh. What kind of films do you think we're going to be watching more as a family at home?
As a family, that's a good question. I don't know. Because, I think, we'd already kind of, I don't know. That's a really good question. Because I think, well, the good thing about like the changing way that movies are being distributed is that there's going to be so much content. So I think there's going to be a lot of choices. There's going to be plenty of choices for families. There's going to be plenty of choices for the independent artists that want to do something a little riskier. So that's the exciting part, is that we're going to have a lot more choices too, instead of just what's at the movie theater. So that excites me. Okay,
that's good. Right, as you know, because we've just come to 8 o'clock, we are Integrity Magazine.
Yes.
What does the word integrity mean to you, Jason O'Brien?
Integrity for me, and especially after like what I've gone through the past couple of years, means living your authentic life. Like acting as you say, acting as you believe, because there's so much hypocrisy in the world. So I think integrity is all about living your truth, just being who you are. And it's a struggle sometimes to get there, but it is so rewarding when you are.
That's really brilliant. Yeah. Thank you. And you're definitely someone I know is very authentic. I'm very pleased to call you my Facebook friend, and also I would probably say one of my closest friends. And that's great about Facebook, right? Because we criticize it a lot for showing pretend lives on social media, etc., because we post the best bits and it can be quite negative, etc. But I believe that I've got a lifelong friend, and it's all down to Facebook. So I'm very grateful. Yep. Thank you so much for coming on the Friday Vibe. And it's been a really pleasure. A real pleasure.
That's a very special pleasure.
Been a real pleasure, Jason O'Brien. And really good luck with all your projects and finishing those 2 documentaries. Can't wait to see them.
Yeah, and get to your
Enjoy the rest of your day.
I will.
What did you say, sorry?
Get to your writing. We got a script to write.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, get to my writing. Okay.
Jump to it.
Thank you so much. You take care. And thank you so much for joining the Friday Vibe and Integrity Magazine.
Absolutely.
Bye, Jason.
Bye. Yay.